I'm very interested about you being a pansexual
Okay.
and what that actually means, because it was new to
Mhm.
me. I had to go and look
Okay.
it up.
Okay.
Maybe I've just been out the loop and living in my own bubble or something, but the term,
That's I'm all of like I've always thought like life is the lesson, we are always the student. And I
Mhm.
just think, you know, we are always learning. So I think as long as everybody goes into stuff with an open mind to be educated, then it's all good. Like I don't, if I'm kind of just so as a side note, if I'm kind of like this a lot, it's just because my anxiety's just a little bit. So I'm kind of darting. I'm not quite, I don't know, and I'm moving my hands a lot. So I will calm down. I'm just a little bit, I always get a little bit like, woo, with these things.
That's cool.
But yeah, so I've got your questions here. I've screenshotted them. So um so obviously first, so you wanted to know like what is a pansexual?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically there's no, so for some people there is no difference between a bisexual person and a pansexual person.
Yeah.
um So there is this idea that people who identify as bisexual, that they don't class as non-binary people within that, or they're very ignorant to non-binary people existing, which is obviously very ignorant, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
whereas, so overall the difference, there isn't really much difference in bisexuality and pansexuality. People that identify as pansexual tend to, it's more of a statement of saying, I just accept anybody. I could be in love with anybody, regardless of their sexuality or their gender identity. Obviously, that the only people, I should say, that wouldn't be going into a relationship with somebody like myself is a gay man.
Yeah.
That's it. Um, so everything else is, kind of, I guess, fair game in that way. So if somebody was bi or whatever, um, so really and truly, because there's a lot of people like, there's been a lot of debate about it, because obviously there's bi people that are like, I'm not ignorant to the fact that there's non-binary people. And then pansexuality, that's like, well, it's no different to bisexuality. Um, but obviously, yeah, essentially, it's kind of the same thing, except pansexual holds more of a, it's more of a statement of like, I am open and I see everybody. Whereas I think bisexuality, because there was a lot of back when there was a lot of movements to get pride going, it was a lot of bisexual people that did the work. They threw the bricks, they started the movement. So yeah, in a word, it's kind of the same thing, in really and truly. But there are people who can, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm still learning about it. I only came out in 2018. Up until that point, I identified as bisexual. Up in, so I went through a point of thinking I was gay,
Yeah.
and then bisexual, and then in 2018, in August 2018, I came out to my partner and was like, do you know what? I just think I'm pansexual. And he was like, cool, because he's what's classed as a demi straight. So he is straight, but he is also demisexual. So if you wanted to know what a demisexual is, basically it's somebody who cannot have a relationship with somebody without there being a emotional build up between the person they want to be with. So there needs to be that connection, that emotional bond and connection before going into a relationship or even to be intimate.
Cool.
It's kind of like in the bracket of asexuality and grey sexuality. It's within that kind of bracket. So yeah, my partner is unable to have, so before me he wouldn't just sleep about then.
You can't do one night stands and stuff like that, and
No, it almost makes his yeah,
and stuff like that. It has to have that emotional connection before he can
yeah,
even
yeah,
being intimate with a partner.
yeah. I think it, like, even the thought of just one night stands makes his skin crawl. And he's like, it's his personal space, and like with touching, it's very sort of, which kind of falls, like I said, under the bracket with like asexuality and all that sort of stuff. But as well, like, there wasn't the amount of education out there either when I was young. And being a 90s kid, like now, like Gen Z, like they have so much information on this stuff. So even I'm trying to like learn about my community and fully learn about who I am, and the history of where my community came from. And I mean, it's amazing, like, don't get me wrong, and I mean, I love it, and I've always known like I was queer, and I've always known that I've not been I'm not straight. I am monogamous. So I've always been monogamous. So just thought I'd throw that in there, just in case anybody was wondering when they watch this. Because that is definitely something that bisexual people and pansexual people get a lot, is they think that like we're poly, like, and we're into that. Some people are well into that, but there is this sweeping statement, especially I suppose with like femme presenting or females who identify with that sexuality, because that's the thing, like pan and bi people, they're not taken very seriously. You know, it's like if it's a bisexual man or a pansexual man, it's kind of like, oh, he's basically gay. And then with women, it's like, oh, so you want to have like a threesome, and it's kind of downgraded and dehumanized a lot, when actually we just want to like just want to have love and relationship or ships. Like if you're poly, like I've got nothing against people that are polyamorous. Like if you want to do that, you do that. I've got friends that are like that.
It's the classic thing though, is it's coming from a place of no understanding.
Yeah.
So people can make these sweeping statements because I'm
100%.
never going to truly understand it. So that's what I'm here to learn.
Yeah.
You know, I've got you on my show to learn and to educate me and others, because I won't understand it because I'm a straight man.
Yeah. But that's fine. Like everybody can be educated. And I mean, it wasn't even until this year that like Ali was like, that makes me demisexual then. And I was like, well, yeah, then it kind of does. And he was like, cool, like, but cool. And he was like, so does that make me part of the community then? I was like, well, yeah, of course, because that's another thing, like there's a lot of discrimination with even in the community. Like there's a lot of discrimination, and it's wild, like especially towards like the trans community. Like, because without them we wouldn't have our safe space. Without the T, there is no LGBTQ. Do you know what I mean? There is no, they were the ones that, like I said, they threw like there's so many articles on all the amazing trans women and sex workers that put their life on the lines and did so much. And you know, back in like 60s and 70s, obviously, whilst a lot of like gay men were obviously going through, and like trans people were going through all the stuff with like the HIV and AIDS and stuff, I highly recommend watching the program Pose.
Okay.
If you watch it, it'll give you such a great insight into what it was like in America in that time period for especially like black trans people, black
Mm.
um
Wow.
black
Imagine.
sex workers,
Yeah.
and and like the Latinos and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, and like different people outside of that. And you can see there's a scene where two of the trans women go into a gay bar, and all the gay men, all mostly white, they just turn around and go, oh, is it drag night?
Mm.
And they literally try and start fights with them.
Yeah. No, I can
and and
imagine.
and it's always been, there's a lot of discrimination from like lesbians and gay men towards the trans people, and I think they need to remember who the fuck lay themselves on the line for us. And that's not saying that there haven't been lesbians and gay men and all that who haven't done it, because my God, they have, and they have suffered. And we should never ever take away the fact that so many people before us suffered so that we could be at this point, and we're nowhere near where we should be.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
and we need to remember everybody's story is valid, but the people in my community also need to remember who the fuck gave their lives. And that's why I get really, really angry at people in my community that discriminate against the trans people or bisexual people, because a lot of the trans women and sex workers who did that, who threw the first bricks, were also bisexual.
Mm.
So it's like, we need to remember like that the T and the B are very, very important. And we are meant to be a community where there's a lot of love and all that. I mean, I know I'm in a place of privilege. One, because on the outside, me and my partner look like a straight couple,
Yeah.
which immediately gives me more protection than my cousin who is a lesbian. That gives it's more protection than other people, like two gay men walking down the
Mm.
street. It is more protection because I look like a straight woman. And also, I know I keep bringing race into it, but it is part of it. And it is part of the package that I am white, and there is a lot of things I can get away with looking like a white straight woman.
Yeah.
But I'm not,
100%.
but I'm not straight. And it's it's taken a long time to feel this comfortable in myself. But I really think it's important that not only do straight people, but people in my community, we love and appreciate the people that died or suffered for us to have. Because there are straight people who go to Pride, they lap up all the luxury of the rainbows and the sparkle and the
And the
drink,
atmosphere.
the drinks and the drag shows and everything. They lap up all the good bits. Well, and it's like, you need to make sure that you remember, whilst you're being an ally, that you take into consideration the other part of it. And if you're an ally, you've got to shout those bits even louder so that it amplifies our voices too. And I want to amplify my trans people's voices as well, because I'm an ally for them and I love them and I want them to be safe. I want them to be able to live their life and live their truth without having to face a lot of what they have to face day
Definitely.
to day.
Could we talk about coming out for you? What was that? Because you said you haven't completely.
Okay, I so for most of my life I thought, like I said, I was gay. And then when I sort of hit my early teens, I kind of came out then as bisexual, because I come from the era of MySpace.
Oh, right.
Bisex, yeah, bisexuality was very it was very sort of brought to the forefront for a lot of scene and emo kids. There are going to be people that are going to watch this and go, wow, this just brings back home that we're all old. But so yeah, so that's kind of when like I was like, okay, like maybe I'm this then. So I came out to my friends, but not my family. And then when my cousin came out as gay, I actually told her that I was bisexual, and it was chill. And then I think it was maybe, and not last year, the year before, end of 2019. I think I remember like I was over at my mum and dad's, and they mentioned that a friend of theirs, their friend's son was trans.
Yeah.
But they hadn't had like their bottom surgery. They'd only had like top surgery.
Yeah.
And they're still at a point where they're kind of like trying to get their head around it, like they're trying to learn. And my stepmom was like, wouldn't it be a bit weird though, because it's still like that down there, it's not the other thing. And it's like, I was like, yeah, but he's still a guy. And fair play to her, she didn't misgender him through the whole of that, which shocked me. I was waiting for her to say it, but she didn't. And I just turned around and was like, well, I wouldn't mind. And they kind of both looked at me, and I was like, I wouldn't care. And she was like, what? Even if I was like, no, wouldn't bother me. And then they kind of went silent for a minute, and then my dad changed the subject, as my dad does, so tactfully. So that was me kind of coming out to my parents.
What was school and like? Did you? I was just thinking about growing up and knowing that
Okay.
it wasn't quite. You thought you was different, and you had feelings inside, and you couldn't really tell anyone. What was that like? What was that experience for you?
So I didn't always live with my dad. So I lived with my mum through the majority of my childhood. And honestly, I suppressed pretty much a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's weird because I'd always fancied Leonardo DiCaprio, yet I really liked girls. So it was a bit like, okay, but like,
I'm going to say something though in regards to Leo. He's quite a feminine looking guy.
He was back in the 90s for sure, with
Definitely.
those curtains.
His look, it's almost like almost getting to like a young girl type
Yeah, he
features.
was very feminine looking, but such a
Just to
beautiful.
put that out there.
Yeah, such
Even
a beautiful.
though I respect Leo, but I did sometimes look and think you look a bit, it's a bit feminine and
All that.
yeah, not really masculine. It wasn't coming across like a masculine guy.
Yeah, he is quite feminine looking. But I kind of didn't acknowledge it. And there was one boy that I did kind of this is the thing, like, so it was really conflicting because
Yeah.
there was nobody in my life telling me, or in my life that was openly like bisexual or queer. So it's like, what do I do with these feelings? And then I got to preteen, and that's kind of when I suppose the experimental side of things came into it. But I always knew it was there, but I never told a lot of my friends growing up. In fact, I told nobody.
Wow.
Nobody knew. Not a single soul knew whilst I was growing up. So yeah, it was kind of like that really. And then I only sort of started opening up when I hit my teens, my early teens.
What was
So
that like though? What was the feeling of actually being able to open up and be yourself rather than suppressing all these
it was
emotions and feelings?
it was okay. There was like a slight fear because at that point my parents, like my dad and my stepmom, were really homophobic. So I was
Mm,
worried about anything getting back to them. And my family overall were really homophobic. So I was really like worried about anything getting back to them. So I only told like a real select amount of people that I know that it wouldn't have got back to them. Because I remember like me and an old friend, I split up from one of my boyfriends, and we jokingly put on Facebook that we were in a relationship together. And my stepmom actually got me to take it down and put a public apology out to the people that I went to
wow.
school with.
Wow.
It was that bad.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Or she'd be kind of shocked at the amount of girls that I've done stuff with in real life. But it's kind of like, it's just, I don't know. Like, it was one of those weird moments. I was so like confused as well because I was 18 at that point then, and I was still like so like confused.
Yeah. Who am I type thing. And
Yeah, there was
bit by bit.
a lot of identity crisis for sure.
Definitely. Do you get much discrimination against you when you start, when people find out or know of your sexuality and stuff, or is it like you said?
It's
Yeah, go on.
it's more of a oh, so you'd be up for a threesome then, or
Yeah,
you'd be up for doing this then, and kind of dehumanizing it
yeah.
and sexualizing it in that way. And it's like, no, fam. In a word, no. I'm really not interested in that
Yeah.
lifestyle, and got nothing against people who do, but I just it's almost like saying that bisexual women and pansexual women are like easy.
Mm,
And it's like, no, in a word. But I've never had somebody tell me stuff like it's disgusting or anything like that. It's more, there's been more curiosity
yeah.
than, but like ignorant
Mm,
curiosity because the people don't know, which is fine because I'm cool to educate. Um, and just sort of general curiosity about it rather than full blown discrimination, I would say, which I'm lucky really, bar obviously having it like sexualized and dehumanized almost
mhm.
into just like a straight man's fantasy. Other than that, I've been very lucky, I think.
That's good. Can you talk about gay pride and what that means to you? Since this is all for Gay Pride Month, we're doing this.
Yeah, so obviously pride is extremely important. And like I said earlier, like in our chat, like we need to remember those who laid themselves on the line for the rest of us.
Mm,
And
the way.
yeah, I mean, it's all good. Like, I mean, outside of Pride Month, people should still support like small businesses that are run by queer people, like LGBT ran businesses. But I think during Pride Month, it's even more important because all the big corps are slapping rainbows on stuff. And they're not doing anything outside of Pride Month.
It's a classic. It's a classic.
Um, because like there have been like I've seen like straight men say, yeah, but my 13-year-old self would have loved seeing this when I was younger. And I'm like, they don't care about you.
No,
They
they,
don't.
they
They
don't.
don't care. They just are in it for the money.
Yes.
So I would always say, like, outside of Pride Month, still support like small queer businesses, but especially in Pride Month, like, do your research and support small queer businesses and all this sort of stuff. Talking about that, I am actually repping a clothing line that is ran. There's an LGBT run
Okay, cool.
company called Acid Control
Cool.
by a gay couple, and they are lovely. And one of the guys is actually a trans man. So
Cool. I'll put that in the description with
yeah,
that as well.
yeah. So I just thought I would throw that in and just rep my boys because they
Oh,
are
that's cool.
lovely.
That's what it's
They
all
are lovely. They are lovely, lovely people. And yeah, I just think people should um, be go out and educate and learn about pride. Be the best ally that you can be if you're straight and cis, and help support us. And I mean, I love Pride for a multitude of things. I've only actually been to one actual gay Pride, and that was the year I came out as pansexual. And that is actually ran by a non-binary friend of mine,
Okay.
mine and my partner's. And they put it on like for a few years, and then obviously Rona hit. So I I think, yeah, past all the like the glitter and the sparkles and the rainbows and all this sort of stuff, we need to just, like I said earlier, just need to remember where it all came from, honor it, remember the people, keep shouting for equality, keep pushing that what we want to happen, and support each other, and remember that there are people who are allies, who are straight and cis, that want to make sure that we're okay, and big them up too, because we need them very much in this fight to make sure that we're all safe. And yeah, that Pride Month's very important. So I kind of covered it earlier. I just kind of go off on tangents, and then I'm like, yeah, copy and paste.
That's cool. I wanted to talk about your YouTube channel next. Samii
Mm-hmm.
Finds and Speaks. Tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about your inspiration behind that and why you
Okay.
set it up.
So if people go and subscribe, they will eventually notice a rebranding that's actually happening. So I'm learning British Sign Language. So that's the signs part. The speak part is because I'm a motivational speaker.
Cool.
So ranty motivational speaker. So that's where the name came from. But because I'm juggling so much at this present time in my personal life, my studies for my sign language have taken a bit of a knock because of everything else that's kind of overwhelming all of that. So I'm actually reining in me learning my sign language on the down low, so I can just sort of focus in on my studies and get it right. So I decided, in order to take pressure off completely, I'm just going to change up like my Instagram handle, because it was Samii Signs and Speaks before, and then I changed it to Samii Arminto. And then I am changing my YouTube channel because
Okay.
I start my intro doing sign language.
Yeah.
So I want to basically just rebrand, take it back a notch, do my studies, get my qualification without the external pressure and persona I've kind of put on it.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that, whilst I'm still very much the student, I'm not the teacher. I'm not here to teach people sign language. There are actual deaf and hard of hearing creators that people could learn a lot from.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like having signs in my name. I didn't feel like now that I deserve that, whilst I'm still very much a baby and a student within that.
No, I
So
hear
if people do decide to subscribe and then they notice a difference, that's why. But I am actually rebranding my name, my intro, bar the pronouns part. because I want to keep that part in, because I talk about pronouns in my intro a little bit. So initially it started off with, because I wanted to incorporate sign language with motivational speaking and being ranty and mental health awareness and all that, but it kind of got a bit too much. So I'm just easing the pressure, and because I'm so dedicated to my sign language, I want to make sure that I get it right, and then I can slowly bring it back in to where I want it to be, but I need to focus in on it. So I'm just taking the putting the brakes on for now and just saying I need to go and study in peace. So that's the kind of, so if people are like, oh, it's changed. So I'm having new artwork done, new name, the whole lot, but for now it is going to be that for the time being.
Cool.
So yeah, with the YouTube channel, it is a mixture of all sorts of content. There is kind of no rhyme or reason with it. It kind of just flows into whatever.
But started off as mental health awareness.
Oh yeah, it's still very much that. I've got loads of like ideas to kind of hit into with mental health, with motivational stuff. But I just throw different ideas into the mix as well, just to keep it varied.
Cool.
Just keep it. Keep people on their toes.
Cool. So people, please like, share and subscribe to Samii's channel.
Thank you.
And to this video. Do you have any more social platforms that you're on, Samii, that people can get in touch with you on?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram as Samii R Minto. That's ARMINTO. Is a play on my Italian last name. And also it's the same for my TikTok that I started yesterday. And I might get a Facebook page started up, and then obviously like my YouTube, but I'm gonna stay away from Twitter because it's quite catty on there.
It can be very much so.
Yeah.
Samii, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And have a nice day. See you soon.
And thank you. And you. Thank you. Bye.